You're listening to Binjang 91.5 and it's time for Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson. Good morning, Matthew.
Yeah, good morning, Tony. Always good to be in studio here.
Yes, it's nice and comfortable, isn't it?
It is. It's very comfortable today, despite what's happening outside. It's actually very comfortable in here.
Well, off to our first topic. Now, the Amazon Ring camera has been used to spy on an 8-year-old girl.
Pretty scary story, this one. And it's not just, I know this one specifically was the Amazon Ring camera, but obviously it could apply to any one of those cameras that you can install around your home. And this particular family put one in their 8-year-old daughter's bedroom and had it there, again, just to keep an eye on their daughter if they were out at night or wherever they might have been. And before they knew it, the camera started having a conversation with the girl. So what had actually happened was someone in the outside world had hacked into that camera and started talking to the girl. Now, they didn't tell her to take photos of herself or undress or anything like that, but that could have obviously been a possibility. They started talking to her and told her to smash a TV that was in her room, which is an unusual thing to do, and started talking to her just in general about some things. And the daughter was smart enough to say something's going wrong here, and then screamed out to mum and dad, and they came in, and obviously the conversation stopped then, and they investigated a bit further and found that just a bit of extra security might have helped the situation, but they actually the police suspect it was someone in the nearby area that was actually getting onto their Wi-Fi network and then getting access to the camera via that. So it's just one of the things. I'm a great fan of cameras and of CCTV, but just make sure you're aware of it, make sure you're using two-step authentication, make sure you've got some good strong passwords on your Wi-Fi, just some basic security concepts. And in this case, I think it was just an opportunistic person who decided to get in there and do what he did. Who knows how far it would have gone, who knows what he would have done, but just that first part's very scary. Yeah,
you might like to describe what a Ring camera, Amazon Ring camera is.
It's just basically, it's their brand name. They bought out another company called Ring, as so often happens these days. Someone has a successful product and they get bought out. So the Amazon Ring camera is just basically a CCTV camera that links into your Wi-Fi. And there's a number of brands out there, a number of organisations are doing this sort of thing, where you've got a camera, and that camera, in the old CCTV world, the cameras actually had their own individual hard drive recording device, whether it used to be on VHS tape in the very, very old days, or to a hard drive on a more modern device. Now, many of those devices aren't recording locally in your house or your business. They're actually recording offsite into the cloud. And the advantage of that is that if someone comes along and says, I'm going to break into here, there's a camera, I'll smash the camera now, go and smash the recording device, there's no trace of me. Once they're in there and they're being seen by the camera, it's already recorded in the cloud. So that's a huge advantage there. But again, it means it's connected to the internet, which always gives you a possibility of having a hacker come and have some fun, in their words.
Not so easy to smash the cloud then.
No, it's not so easy to smash the cloud. I'm going to use that one, Tony. That's good.
Well, the federal government could lead the world in regulating big tech companies like Facebook and Google, and they've been looking at this pretty closely, haven't they?
Yeah, well, there's a whole range of things, and the one that really got my interest was the fact that Australian TV providers, the old-fashioned TV producers in Australia, Channel 9, Channel 7, those sort of organisations, they've got this requirement. They've got to provide 55% of their content that is Australian. Now, unfortunately, at the moment, a lot of that's made up with reality TV, so maybe they'd be better off cutting back that. It used to be that some of that content was made up with some locally produced dramas, but the TV companies have found that it's cheaper to produce reality TV than it is to produce a local drama. But that's one of the main issues they're looking at the moment, is all the streaming services are coming into the nation. So you've got Netflix, you've got Disney, you've got Apple, you've got these major streaming services that are basically allowing content to be viewed here in this nation. There's no requirement for that 55% of local content. Now, it would be an absolutely fantastic thing for anyone that produces local content, whether it be local dramas or local reality TV, if the federal government did say anyone that allows content to be shown in this nation needs to have that 55% requirement, or a requirement, a certain percentage. Maybe 55% is too high, maybe it'd be better just being 30%, for example. But that would be, I think, a big step forward. So the federal government is looking at items like that. They've actually set up a complete division. They're spending $26.9 million on a separate division just to look at some of these things for streaming, and then also some of the rules in place around the social media sites, the Facebooks, the Googles, etc.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, isn't it? The whole thing, And divorce lawyers are using geo-tracking apps as evidence of cheating. Yeah.
Well, back in the old days, again, we're talking about the old days a bit here, Tony.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, you used to get spouses who were worried about their partner, and they would look through phone bills, or they might look through credit card statements to try and track where someone might have been. But now there's so much information about where you physically are that it's actually revealing some information that people may not want to be revealed. And the first one that caught my attention was a Fitbit. And there was one spouse looking at her spouse's activity on Fitbit and realised that there was some high heart rate activity at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when their husband was away at a conference, for example, away at a seminar, and couldn't work out why there would be this high heart rate at these sort of times in the morning. Going to the gym at 3 a.m. in the morning, darling, what's going on there?
Yes.
So anyway, that obviously ended up being, there was some other activity with some other people, some other females going on, and so obviously that led to divorce. The one that I thought was the silliest one, and even the lawyer in this situation said the same thing. There was one where Uber was being used, and it was a joint account they had between the husband and wife, and Uber was being used to bring escorts essentially to the motel where this particular person was staying when they were at a conference.
Very clever.
Very clever. And so the wife saw the Uber tracking coming through, and she started asking why there were all these trips from various locations to the motel while the husband was away. You know, who are you bringing to the motel? And eventually that led to the truth coming out. So again, it's just interesting how much of our life is now tracked about where we are, where we've been. There's a whole range of information there that you're probably not even aware of.
I think you'd have to be suspicious in the first place, Matthew.
Well, and I think that's, I've never pulled out a phone bill or a credit card statement from my wife to look through because hopefully I'm not worried. Well, I'm not worried about that, and so hopefully I'm right on that. But again, I think you're right. You've got to be suspicious in the first place. But it just, I suppose the point is, it really is. There's so much of your life that's visible online.
Absolutely,
and hopefully only to people that need to see it. But you've got a lot of your information sitting out there in the cloud now.
Yeah, the Prize app designed to help deaf children in school. That sounds like a very interesting
look, Amazon
tool.
run a little competition where they try and get some people to come up with apps, and obviously they want to develop apps, and ultimate objective for Amazon is to make money out of these. But this particular one was a group of school children, and they actually had someone in their classroom who was deaf, and they dealt with the fact that they'd gone through their schooling life. Many of the kids in the class had gone through their schooling life with someone in their classroom who was deaf. And they got to the point where they said, well, wouldn't it be fantastic if we had an app that this person could use in the classroom to essentially transcribe what was happening in the classroom to something they could use in their notes rather than having to go through a process of sharing notes with their fellow students, or I'm sure a range of mechanisms they'd come up with over that time. So they actually won, Amazon runs these competitions, they actually won one of those competitions. So that app is being developed, and probably won't take that long. Apps are pretty quick to develop.
Yes.
And it won't take that long before I think you'll see this sort of app available in classrooms around the world, where people can use it if they've got someone in the classroom who is either deaf or has got some hearing impediments there. It might not be completely deaf, but might be very hard of hearing, be able to use that there. So I think this is a great thing, and it's great to see school students solving problems for their fellow students.
Yeah. You've been listening to Tech Talk with Mathew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5, and now it's back to the program.